On July 1st, 1867, the country of Canada was created. There were many events that led up to Confederation. In September 1864, the maritime colonies decided to hold a conference in Charlottetown to discuss the idea of a maritime union.
We will hold a conference in a week to discuss the idea of a maritime union.
Although the Canadas weren't part of the Maritimes, they had managed to get an invitation. Representatives from PEI, New Brunswick, and Nova Scotia met with representatives from the Canadas to discuss the union. John A. Macdonald and his colleagues got them to consider a union with the Canadas and got them to drop their original plans.
Please consider joining the Canadas and the Maritimes together.
They decided to meet again and discuss the plan later.
We should meet together soon to discuss the plan further.
In October 1867, representatives from PEI, the Canadas, New Brunswick, Newfoundland, and Nova Scotia gathered in Quebec to hold another conference. They met for 3 weeks to discuss the rules for sharing the power in the new country. At the end of the conference, most of the delegates voted in favor of the Quebec Resolution. Here is a list of some of the features of the new government. A federal constitution, which meant there would be a government for the whole country and for each province. Each level of government would be responsible for specific areas. In Parliament, there will be a balance of representation by population and equal representation. There will be a balance between elected and appointed representatives. In December 1866, representatives from Canada East, Canada West, and the Maritimes traveled to London, England for another conference.
We are here with the British officials to discuss the future of the colonies.
Colonial Secretary Lord Carnarvon has said,
"We are laying the foundation of a great state, perhaps one which at the future day may even overshadow Britain. But come that day, we shall rejoice that we have shown neither indifference to their wishes nor jealousy of their aspirations. Canada shall become the first ever self-governing dominion."
Canada had control over its internal affairs, but Britain would still negotiate with other countries for Canada. In 1850s, politicians paid no attention to First Nations or Black people's concerns. They envisioned it to be more like Britain, Ireland, and France. Women are also ignored in discussions, which meant about half the population wasn't included. Each colony had a different attitude towards the Confederation. The Canadas, whose leaders were John A. Macdonald and George Etienne Cartier, were strongly in favor towards Confederation. And they saw it as a way to expand the domestic economy and provide better defense against the U.S. Nova Scotia, whose leader was Charles Tupper, was in favor, but in the Nova Scotia Assembly, his opponents defeated his request for support of the resolutions. New Brunswick, whose leader was Leonard Tilley, was in favor. His party was defeated in the Assembly in 1865. When it asked for a vote for Confederation, Tilley became premier again in 1866 and led New Brunswick into Confederation. even though there was a widespread opposition among voters. Prince Edward Island, their leader was James Pope, and they were in favor if the new government would pay $800,000 to buy out the landlords. The liberal opposition called this bribery and defeated Pope in 1867. The new government refused to join Confederation. Newfoundland. Their leader was Frederick Carter. They were in favor but did not press the issue when civil disorder broke out over other issues in 1865. In 1869, he was defeated in an election by the anti-Confederation Party. Newfoundlanders feared that their traditional way of life would be undermined in Confederation. Two areas where the federal government would make laws were in national defense and taxation, which meant they could make laws on income tax, taxes on corporations, imported duties, Indian reserves, and support. Two areas where the provincial government would make laws is healthcare and education, which meant they would make laws for the hospitals and licensing of doctors and school boards, colleges, and universities. The map of Canada changed between 1867 and 1870 to 1871. One difference in the map was the different regions. In 1867, there was the Northwest Territories, British Columbia, Rupert's Land, Ontario, Quebec, Newfoundland, and the three Maritimes, PEI, Nova Scotia, and New Brunswick. In 1871, Rupert's Land was changed to be part of the Northwest Territories, and there was a new colony, Manitoba. In 1867, only Ontario, Quebec, Nova Scotia, and New Brunswick were part of the Dominion of Canada. In 1871, British Columbia joined the Dominion of Canada, and so did Manitoba. In 1867, the Northwest Territories were controlled by Britain, and Rupert's Land was controlled by HBC. In 1871, nothing was HBC or British controlled, and the Northwest Territories changed to the Territory of Dominion of Canada.
I am John A. MacDonald, and I was the main influence of the writing of the Quebec resolutions. I decided Canada's government should be different from the U.S. I think that the federal government should have important powers. I opposed the referendum, which is a vote by the people.
Here are some reasons why MacDonald wanted the government to be different from the U.S. He believed that the Americans didn't do things well. He thought individual states had too much power, which made them less united. And he thought it was the cause of the American Civil War.
I, Wilfrid Laurier, believe that the French nation is losing power, and I want a free and separate government.
Joseph Howe was a journalist and politician from Nova Scotia. He was the Premier of Nova Scotia for 4 years. He was the leader of opposition for Nova Scotia to Confederation. He thought the Canadas were too far away from Halifax for the Union to be successful. He wrote, "Did anybody ever propose to unite Scotland with Poland or Hungary? They are inland countries, 1,300 kilometers off, in the very heart of Europe." Here are some of the features of Canada's new government. There would be a federal system, which meant there would be a parliament for the whole country, plus a legislature for each province. Bilingual features, which meant French and English would be the languages of the parliament, plus the legislature of Quebec. A balance of representation by population and equal representation, which meant Parliament will have two houses. There will be a representation by population and a House of Commons. In the Senate, each region, Ontario, Quebec, and the Maritimes would have the same number of seats. A balance between elected and appointed representatives, which meant the House of Commons would be elected by voters and the Senate would be appointed by the Prime Minister. Rep by pop. The number of seats in the Parliament is determined by the population in the region represented. In the Parliament, there are more seats for Canada West than PEI because there is a higher population in Canada West. House of Commons, the House of Parliament that is elected by voters and is based on rep by pop. Confederation, union of provinces and territories forming Canada. Indians is a historic term for First Nations. Senate, the House of Parliament that is appointed by the Prime Minister and is based on equal representation. Federal, system with a central government and a provincial or state government.